You know that feeling when you're just trying to close your pool for the season, minding your own business, and suddenly your Sunday becomes a scene from a bad reality TV show? Yeah, that was me last month. The name's Terrence Washington, and this is the story of how my neighbor, Brenda Hartwell, let's just call her Karen, decided my backyard was her personal entertainment venue. It started innocently enough. I was out back around 2 p.m., wrestling with that stubborn pool cover. You pool owners know the drill. It's October, the temperature's dropping, and it's time to button up the pool for winter. My daughter Zoe was inside doing homework. My wife Crystal was preparing dinner, and I was out here trying to get this cover to cooperate. The thing weighs about as much as a small car when it's waterlogged, and I'm pulling and adjusting, working up a sweat despite the cool weather. That's when I heard her, the unmistakable screech of an entitled middle-aged white woman about to have a very public meltdown. I looked up to see Brenda Hartwell standing at the edge of my property line, still wearing her swimsuit like she was ready to dive in. This woman is in her mid-50s with blonde hair that screams, "I want to speak to the manager," and enough fake tan to blind someone in direct sunlight. Excuse me," she hollered, marching onto my property like she owned the place. "What do you think you're doing?" I straightened up, wiping my hands on my shorts. "Closing my pool, Brenda. It's October. You can't do that," she shrieked, pointing at me accusingly. "I already told all my friends we're having a pool party here tomorrow." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what now?" She planted her hands on her hips, her voice reaching a pitch that could shatter windows. "I told my book club, the Riverside Ladies Literary Society, that we were having our monthly meeting here by your gorgeous pool. They're all bringing their bikinis and expensive wine." The audacity hit me like a freight train. "Brenda, you can't just decide to use someone else's pool without asking them first." "But your pool is so much nicer than ours," she whined. "Ours has an algae problem, and this is really important to me. Margaret Peaton will be there. She's the president of the country club, and I need to impress her. She might consider me for the board." I looked at this woman standing in my backyard in her neon pink swimsuit, demanding access to my pool like it was a public facility, and I knew this wasn't going to end well. But I tried to be reasonable. I always try to be reasonable first. "Look, Brenda, I appreciate that you want to impress your friends, but this is my property. You should have asked permission first, and even if you had, the answer would be no. I'm closing the pool for the season." That's when her face turned the same shade as her swimsuit. "You're being completely unreasonable. It's not like you're using it. It's my pool," I said, my patience wearing thin. "I don't have to justify why I'm closing it." She stepped closer, lowering her voice but somehow making it more menacing. "Do you know who I am? My husband is Derek Hartwell. He works for the City Planning Commission. We could make your life very difficult if we wanted to." The threat was weak, but the entitlement was strong. I turned back to the pool cover, hoping she'd take the hint and leave. "Have a good day, Brenda." But she didn't leave. Oh no, that would have been too easy. Instead, she pulled out her phone and started making a call. I thought maybe she was finally calling her book club to find an alternative venue. I was so naive. "Hello? 911? "Yes, I need to report a disturbance," she said loudly, making sure I could hear every word. I turned around slowly, my jaw practically on the ground. "Brenda, what are you doing?" She held up a finger, shushing me while continuing her performance. "There's a black man in my backyard threatening me and refusing to leave. I feel very unsafe. He's acting aggressively, and I think he might be on drugs." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman had walked onto my property, demanded use of my pool, and was now calling the police on me while standing in my backyard. The irony was so thick you could swim in it. "I am not leaving," I said, raising my voice so any 911 operator could hear. "Because this is my house, my pool, and my backyard." She covered the phone with her hand and hissed, "If you don't open that pool right now, I'll tell them you attacked me." That's when I knew I was dealing with someone who had completely lost touch with reality. But this was just the beginning of the craziest afternoon of my life. After Brenda hung up with 911, she didn't leave. Instead, she seemed emboldened, like making that false report had given her some kind of power. She started pacing back and forth on my patio, muttering to herself and occasionally glaring at me with the intensity of 1,000 suns. I went back to securing the pool cover, thinking maybe if I ignored her, she'd realize the absurdity of the situation and leave. But no. This woman was on a mission. She pulled out her phone again and started dialing. Derek? Yes, it's me. I'm at the neighbor's house and he's being absolutely horrible. What? No, I'm not overreacting. He won't let us use his pool tomorrow for the book club meeting. I could hear a man's voice on the other end but couldn't make out the words. Whatever he was saying made Brenda even angrier. Fine. But when Margaret Peaton hears about this, don't come crying to me when they blackball us from the country club. She hung up and stomped back over to where I was working. My husband says we can't force you to open your pool, she said, like it was the most outrageous legal concept she'd ever encountered. Your husband sounds like a reasonable man, I said, not looking up from adjusting the pool cover clips. Don't get smart with me, she snapped. I have other connections, you know. Important connections. I straightened up and faced her. Brenda, please just go home. I'm trying to get this done so I can spend time with my family. That's when her eyes lit up with a manic gleam. You want to know about my connections? My boss, Janet Chen, works for the FBI. She's stationed at the Austin field office and she owes me a favor. I raised an eyebrow. Okay. I could call her right now, Brenda continued, getting more animated with each word. I could tell her you're running some kind of illegal operation out of here. Maybe money laundering through a fake pool maintenance business, or drug dealing. Yeah, that's it. You're clearly using this pool as a front for a drug operation. The woman had completely lost it. Brenda, you realize how crazy you sound right now? Crazy? She shrieked. I'll show you crazy. Without that pool open tomorrow, my entire social status is ruined. Margaret Peaton will think I'm some kind of nobody, and all because you're being selfish. She pulled out her phone, again muttering, Janet's personal number. Where did I put Janet's personal number? I watched in amazement as this woman literally started composing what I can only assume was a text to someone she claimed worked for the FBI. She was typing furiously, pausing occasionally to glare at me. There, she announced triumphantly. I just told Janet there's suspicious activity at 847 Brookstone Drive. I said that a black man is running some kind of illegal operation and threatening white women in the neighborhood. My blood ran cold. She'd just given my actual address in what appeared to be a message to a supposed federal agent, and she'd thrown in a racial component that made the whole situation infinitely more dangerous for me. Brenda, you need to stop this right now, I said, my voice deadly serious. You're about to make a very big mistake. The mistake was yours, she shot back. You should have just been nice and let us use your pool. Now you're going to learn what happens when you mess with the wrong people. She started, typing again. I'm also telling her about the illegal pool chemicals you're storing, and the strange people coming and going at all hours. Oh, and the mysterious packages being delivered. None of these things were true. Of course, the most mysterious thing about my house was the fact that I'd managed to avoid killing my neighbor up to this point. You know what else? She continued, warming to her theme. I'm going to tell her you've been making threatening comments about government officials, anti-American stuff, really seditious material. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman was constructing an elaborate fantasy involving federal crimes, all because I wouldn't let her use my pool for a book club meeting. Why screenshots of Ring doorbell footage showed Brenda trespassing. I also had audio recordings from my phone. I'd started recording once things got heated. There were photos of the pool area showing my normal pool chemicals and equipment. But the most important thing I did was call my brother-in-law, Marcus Rodriguez, who happens to be a civil rights attorney. Crystal and I drove over to his house Sunday night, and I laid out the entire insane story. Let me get this straight, Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. This woman trespassed on your property, demanded use of your pool, threatened you with government connections, filed a false police report, then called in a fake terrorism threat that resulted in a SWAT team response. That about covers it, I confirmed. Marcus grinned. I recognize that expression. It's the same one he gets when he's about to destroy someone in court. Terrence, you're going to sue this woman into the Stone Age. Monday morning, Marcus and I went to the police station to file additional charges. The desk sergeant, who had clearly been briefed on the situation, word travels fast in a small town, was very helpful. "We've already got her on filing false reports and misuse of emergency services," the sergeant explained. "Those are good for up to a year in jail and substantial fines. But with your evidence, we can add trespassing, harassment, and making false statements with intent to incite panic." "What about the racial component?" Marcus asked. She specifically told the 911 operator she was calling about a black man and suggested he was dangerous purely based on his race. The sergeant nodded. "That could elevate some of these charges to hate crime status, especially if we can prove she was motivated by racial bias." Then Marcus dropped the bombshell. "We'll also be filing a civil lawsuit for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, invasion of privacy, and civil rights violations. We're looking at significant monetary damages." Tuesday morning, I decided to visit my other neighbors to warn them about what had happened and to get their statements about Brenda's previous behavior. What I discovered was even better than I'd hoped. Mrs. Patterson, who lived 2 houses down, invited me in for coffee and opened up immediately. "Oh, honey, I've been waiting for someone to finally deal with that woman." She reported me to the Homeowners Association last year for having too ethnic landscaping, because I planted some cactus plants in my front yard. Mr. Chen, no relation to Brenda's fictional FBI contact, from across the street, had even more stories. She's called the city on me 3 times for suspicious packages being delivered. They were just my Amazon orders. And she asked the mailman if he thought it was appropriate for Asian families to live in this neighborhood. The teenage daughter of the Johnsons, who lived next to Brenda, had the best story. She totally called the police on my dad when he was grilling in our backyard. She said the foreign food smells were lowering her property values, and that he might be cooking something illegal. Marcus was taking notes like crazy. This woman has a clear pattern of racially motivated harassment against multiple neighbors. This is gold for our case. By Wednesday, I'd compiled a folder of evidence that was 3 inches thick. Ring doorbell footage from several neighbors, screenshots of deleted social media posts where Brenda had complained about the changing demographic of the neighborhood, and statements from at least 8 neighbors about her previous racist behavior. Then I got a call from Mrs. Garcia, who had witnessed the Sunday incident. "Terrence," she said excitedly, "you're not going to believe this. I was at yoga class this morning and Brenda was there bragging about what she did." "What did she say?" "She told everyone she taught that uppity neighbor a lesson, and that sometimes you have to remind people of their place. She actually said she hoped the SWAT team had scared your family enough that you'd be more cooperative in the future." I nearly dropped the phone. She had just admitted premeditation and racial motivation in front of a yoga class full of witnesses. Marcus filed additional charges Thursday morning, and by Friday we had a court date set for the following month. But I wasn't satisfied with just legal action. I wanted the community to know exactly who they were dealing with, so I created a neighborhood group chat to warn other residents about the safety concerns regarding Brenda's pattern of filing false police reports. I included all the documentation, witness statements, and a clear timeline of events. The response was immediate and explosive. Neighbors who had suffered in silence started sharing their own stories. The Martinez family revealed that Brenda had followed their teenage son home from school, taking pictures of him and later claiming he was casing houses for burglaries. The African-American family who had moved in 6 months ago shared that Brenda had asked them directly when they were planning to move, because the neighborhood was going downhill. My retired neighbor, Lieutenant Colonel Anderson, who happened to be white, was so furious about the SWAT team incident that he personally vouched for my family's character to anyone who would listen. Saturday morning, I was in my front yard, pulling up the last of the police tape when I noticed something that made me smile. Several neighbors had put up yard signs. One read, "We stand with the Washington family." Another said, "Racism has no place on Brookstone Drive." The Martinez family had a sign in both English and Spanish, "Unity, not hate." But the best sign was from Mrs. Patterson. "Pool parties by invitation only." As I was admiring the neighborhood, solidarity, I noticed a for sale sign being planted in Brenda's front yard. I walked over to the real estate agent, a well-dressed man who was trying not to make eye contact. "Moving kind of fast, aren't we?" I asked pleasantly. He shifted uncomfortably. "Well, the homeowner is facing some legal challenges." "Before the court date, you mean?" He nodded reluctantly. "She's hoping to settle out of court and move to a different state." I smiled. "That's interesting. Please make sure to disclose to potential buyers that there have been multiple noise complaints, harassment issues, and, let's say, interactions with law enforcement at this property." The agent swallowed hard. "We'll be sure to follow all disclosure requirements." As I walked back to my house, I saw Brenda peeking out from behind her bedroom curtains. She quickly ducked back when she realized I'd spotted her. Crystal met me at the door with a huge grin on her face. "You're going to love this," she said, showing me her phone. The video of Sunday's incident had gone viral. Someone had compiled Ring doorbell footage from multiple neighbors into a single video showing Brenda's trespassing, false claims, and eventual arrest. The video was titled, "Karen Calls SWAT Team Over Pool Access," and had already been viewed over 2 million times. The comments were brutal. "Imagine being so entitled you think you can use someone else's pool for a book club meeting. This woman needs serious help. Plot twist, she's probably never read a book in her life." But this was still just the beginning. The real revenge was about to unfold in court.